you don't have an answer, respond that you received the request and you'll get back to them in X amount of time with the answer that they're looking for. Don't ever ghost a colleague, a customer, and especially like a leader of your organization or another organization. Like nothing screams incompetence more than no responses.
Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Project. I'm Steve Maxey, and with my co-host and brother Jake, we are here to bring you guidance, fresh ideas, and the tools to help you become an impactful engineer.
Welcome to the Impactful Engineer. Our mission is to help you grow your engineering career and inspire you to pursue your full potential as not only an engineering professional, but as a member of your greater community. I'm Stephen Maxey, a mechanical engineer who now leads an engineering team in new product development for Klein Tools, a large professional hand tool manufacturer. My brother Jake is a professional engineer for Hallam ICS, a company that provides multiple engineering services, including mechanical, electrical, and process design for the built environment.
This podcast has a few episode types. The first one being that Steve and I hop on here and we yell at you about a topic that we're passionate about. And we try to get something going that will drive you to take some action in your own career and in your own life.
We also have quick solo episodes that are really short and down to the point, like 10 minutes or so, where one of us has an idea that we want to share to the group that is critical to growing your career. These can be high-level concepts that change your thinking and mindsets, or more detailed topics to inspire specific actions.
And about once a month, we'll bring on a guest who has an expertise in a particular field and share their perspective, mindset, strategies, actionable tips, all those great things based around their area of genius. The overall goal being to provide exposure to multiple thought processes and views in areas that will help you succeed in your career. These episodes are a lot of fun. They're packed with useful, thought-provoking information, and there's usually something really, really good you can take away from the guest on those.
Awesome. How you doing, Jake?
I'm doing great, man. It's a really good week. Busy. Got to do something that I don't normally do, which is go out and just basically hang out with people from the industry of all walks, all corners of the industry, and make some good friends and network and have some fun while we're doing it. So that was fun. We went to the International Interior Design Association's croquet tournament.
Oh, nice.
The International Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport, Rhode Island.
That sounds awesome.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love those types of events where you just get to go out, network, shoot the shit with people, and just have a good time, but you're also building those relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd never been there, and it's an hour or so away, so basically everyone I met was new. So it was pretty fun. And I hadn't hit a croquet ball in since we were what?
Yeah, little kids.
I don't know, 7. So
Can't remember the last time.
Yeah. And then I learned the rules. There's actual rules to that. You don't just run around swinging mallets like we thought it was. So it was pretty good. Made it to the championship game.
Awesome.
And then got our asses beat, but that's all right.
As you should.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Well,
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Today, I wanted to talk about communication. Specifically, I had 3 bullet points that I have down here for notes that I wanted to touch on. So just high level. First is tailoring your communication to the level of expertise, right, that your audience is. The next one would be adjusting your communication style to the type of communicator you are working with. And lastly, this is something that we have covered before in our ghosting episode, but your responsiveness in etiquette and communication, right? So on the first point, and this is what most engineers hear about, and it's, you're trained in school for this usually, and that's adjusting your outgoing communication to a specific level of expertise. That's commonly taught in school, but it's essentially only raising the technical bar of your discussion to the level of the other person understands. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not a complete waste of time.
Yes, exactly. And just going right over their heads.
Yeah. Or like you're just throwing jargon around that means nothing to them.
Yeah.
Not that they even should know what that means at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Like, all right. So like let's like you're going to write a good, I don't know. They say like if you're going to write a really good book that tailors to the most people on the planet that you would write it to like a 5th grade level. pare it down, pare it down, pare it down, pare it down, make sure
Yeah.
that it makes sense to someone at that level. And then it's going to be very clear and easy to read for everyone. So something along those lines, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know,
Where do you see this?
what was that?
Where do you see this for yourself? Like, when are you doing this?
You know, a lot of times if you're working on a project together with someone who's not an engineer, they'll be trying to dive into the technical side of things, and then you'll get excited and you'll just start laying down facts, you know, like going into, you know, the analysis of the material or whatever, and they're just like, whoa, 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 that's, I don't know anything about that. You know, if you say it's good, it's good. You know, that kind of thing. That's where I've seen it the most.
Okay, yeah. And that's probably not really what they care about, right?
No, it's, I mean,
So-
really, they're going to be like, hey, is this material strong? And you're like, yes, it is. It's great.
Yeah.
You know,
And you might get so excited, to tell them about it, right? And
Yeah.
what you did and how you know that and all that stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In my line of work, you learn there's so many different parties involved in one project that there's going to be tons of application for this. So I can imagine every job has that. But, if you're looking for like a specific MEP example, it's like if you have the engineers talking to the owner's project manager, just figure out, and this comes with time and asking questions and doing projects, but figure out what the OPM really cares about. I mean, they're looking out for the owner. They're looking out for things that are going to affect cost and schedule and maintenance down the road. And, they're looking years into the future, just like you should be too. But like, they couldn't care less what are you going to do for the lighting control system
Yeah.
for code? Like, bleh, you know what I mean? But they're going to care like the stuff about like, are you putting too many elements in the ceiling? What is it going to look like? Is it going to be aesthetically pleasing? Like, how long does the system last? How complicated is it? How much user control do you have? Do we going to give them too much or is it too little? What can you adjust? Can you really go into a room and say, I want it to be 80 degrees in here because you gave individual thermostats to every single space? And then you're going to be driving people crazy later because they're all changing this, this wide range. I want to be hot. I want to be cold. And then, questions galore, energy usage, all that kind of stuff. It's like, just so you know, they care about that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then when they ask you a specific question, you're not going to dive into how it works. You're going to be like, oh yeah, let's speak at a level where you're playing. And it's like, okay, yeah, so these thermostats have this certain control, but we can tailor it back. We can put this range in, or we can not do one on the wall at all, but just automatic thing. It's locked out. They can't use it. You can control it remotely, whatever, right? But just knowing, I guess my point is just knowing what the partners care about will help you to be able to tailor your communication to the level of expertise.
Yeah. It's really going to be based off what are they looking for in like the performance or user interface, etc. Not why its performance is so great, etc. Unfortunately, I think this is an area that many engineers either struggle to do or can actually sound condescending, while attempting to dumb it down for their audience.
To dumb it down?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, so talk about dumbing it down. Like, so you're going to try to wrap something up very complex and all the ins and outs of it, but you're trying to communicate for a decision to be made, but keep it as high level as needed, but enough to give them the thing they need to make a decision. I'm guessing that's what dumb it down means, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to go into like, like on a material side, you're not going to go into the grain structures and all this other stuff. You're just going to want to say, hey, this type of steel is going to give us the strength we need, but keeping that cost down. If we go to this other steel, it's going to be way too expensive and hard to find. You don't have to tell them all the granular details of that material because they don't care. They just want to know how much does it cost, will it perform, and can you get it?
Yeah, right. So. Yeah, the difference between handling some specialty or hazardous gases with, ultra high purity like requirements and providing them with stainless steel and all these other factors that will go into this piping that's going to be able to handle that. It's like, we just want to know whether can we do copper? Can we do copper because it costs a lot less and the install and getting it connected is way less. Like, can we do that?
Yeah.
And you don't need to talk about all these things about getting into the depth of the technicality behind it all. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I was like, I don't know. If you can't dumb it down, I think you're the dumb one. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Like, you should be able to, not you should, but this is where you can focus. If you're going to communicate something to someone that's out of your realm of expertise, but you need to do the communication to drive the project forward. Like you should be able to explain something at a very high level and quote unquote dumb it down. So work on that.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a skill in itself. So
yeah. And then, if the person you're talking to has something to add, like that they think they know a certain aspect of the technical subject and they're wrong, you don't want to go, well, you're wrong because of this and this and this and this. That's the condescending part, right? You're going to piss them off that way. You have to go at it like, actually in my experience, I've seen this material, function this way in that environment. And, I really caution against using that, etc. Something along those lines.
One of my favorites is just getting curious about it. So you can start asking about, well, okay, so what's your experience with this? And can you give me a few examples where this was better? Like, I want to know the pros and cons behind this so I can help. You can help me help us all make a good decision, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
then you're kind of like leading them to kind of dig a little deeper and back it up. But you're not saying, hey, I know this is stupid and won't work, so we're just going to do it this other way. It's like you kind of lead them to that, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I know when people are doing it to me, right?
Oh, yeah.
I have stupid ideas.
Yeah, we all do.
And it's great. I appreciate that so much more than like, no, you're an idiot. Like, no, we're going to do it this way. Like, or like any sort of cough.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
The other, or the next point that I wanted to touch on is, adjusting your communication style, to match the style of the person you're talking with, right? So it's not necessarily the level of expertise, but really this communication style. And we've touched on this before with like, I forgot what it's called, but disc model, that's what it is. But essentially, if you're talking to like leadership, they don't want to go into the details. They just want to know like that performance criteria, like we mentioned before. And that's it. I'll give a quick story to kind of paint a picture on this. So I was in a meeting with upper leadership. The engineer was leading the discussion and going into detail about, a big event on the project. The leader would ask a simple yes or no question about the confidence in proceeding on this project. And immediately the engineer goes into great detail of data before giving his recommendation. I mean, it was probably almost 2 minutes, and you could just feel that impatience in the air. And then eventually the leader would just interrupt and just ask again, before the engineer got to his recommendation. That leader just wants a simple 1-sentence response that they can just give the approval to proceed. They trust your expertise. You don't have to prove it. And in this instance, I did talk to my direct report about this, and I gave guidance, after the fact about how to handle the situation. And, he came back and was like, oh, I was really proud of the work that I put in. And I just really wanted to showcase that, and I told him, I was like, dude, that's my job. You give the recommendation. They have the confidence in your ability to make that recommendation. And then I follow up like, hey, this guy really put in a ton of work to get this. And he's done a great job. That's my role as the manager. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I can immediately think of a million times where this is happening.
Yeah.
And I'm in meetings all the time. Some of them really cringy. But it's like, so a very easy, simple example is like the Monday morning meeting that probably every engineering firm does, right? You set your expectations for the week, you talk deadlines, the projects, and maybe a quick update about the resources, and then you're off running, right? And you go into your little teams, and your project manager gets you together, and you plan outside of that meeting, you plan the week, how you're going to tackle it. And he's just sitting there, and the person running it is like, does not want to be in the weeds. They just want to ask, like, I know there's something due this week for this project. Just tell me it's good. Tell me what you're going to deliver, and give me the quick update, and let's move on, because I got another 100 rows to get through, right?
Yep.
And it's just like the person that's just like, hey, we're going to get this. Well, and then they have this whole backstory, like, we haven't quite received this thing yet, blah, blah. It's just, just tell them, yeah, that's the target. There are some things that might influence that target. We're tracking them. We'll let you know here in a little bit. That's it. You're not going to solve anything on that phone call. You're not going to like go into the weeds about who hasn't given you the information yet. And then definitely not this person who wants a high level reporting of what's happening in their region this week is not going to dive into your one project when they have half an hour to get through 50. Right?
Yeah.
It's just like, dude, hey, And if you really want the attention and you need them specifically, you say, yeah, but so it's due this week, but there's a hang up. It needs your attention. Let's get on the phone after this meeting or when you're next available.
Yeah.
And then you move on because you got 100 people waiting for you to get done with your story.
Yeah. One of the
Just
most
like a bunch of people are waiting for me to wrap it up, so I will. Go. Steve.
Yeah. I was going to say one of the most popular lines I hear is, oh, we'll take this offline, and that's the signal of like, hey, there's a lot to talk about here, but I'm not holding up this meeting. Let's just move on.
And you can tell the people that aren't prepared because then they get stuck in the little process. You see the wheels moving in their head behind their eyes and they go, just get yourself out of that because everybody sees it and nobody wants you to do it. Just say, hey, we might have to follow up after this meeting. I'll let you know. And then you can go sweat about it and think about it because you hadn't done your job before to think about what you needed to do for that week.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's okay though. So we've all been there,
Oh, yeah.
but don't let it spill into the meeting. Yeah.
Another group that I constantly interact with is overseas partners, like in Asia, for example, and earlier in my career, I would lay out this long drawn out email, have all the questions that I wanted to go through, all the technical problems, et cetera, et cetera. And then I blast off feeling super proud that, I have everything in this one email. So I should get all the answers I'm looking for. And then I get a response that has 2 sentences, and not half of the stuff I was looking for at all. And so
you sent the entire project plan.
Exactly. Right. So it would take days of back and forth trying to, ask the same questions and get a good response to each of the points that I wanted to touch on. And it was just super inefficient. And, later I learned that PowerPoints is like a godsend when it comes to communicating with like foreign suppliers and overseas partners. And, each slide will be a specific topic, right? With a picture, an arrow, and a couple bullets. And you're like, answer this slide and then go to the next slide and et cetera, et cetera. And it's the same thing with meetings. If you're on a virtual meeting with them, you just have a slide deck. And in each slide is what you want to talk about. And when you do that, you always get an answer because they'll go one slide and like, okay, I need to answer this slide. I need to answer this slide. I need to answer this slide. Don't put 20 questions on one slide. You'll get one answer. So that was a huge help, right? So adjusting how you want to communicate based off of how other cultures operate. And it really stems to their understanding of the English language, right? So, they learned it at a later time in life. They only know the basics. So you don't want to be a linguist and go in with like all these complicated English words. They're just going to go right over their head or Google Translate won't work, etc. So you got to keep your terminology like super simple and very clear and concise for even like no matter how technical the problem is, because these are very sharp people, but they just don't understand English to the level that you do because it's your native language.
And you're throwing in all this dialect and you're completely throwing them off.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, maybe you should learn a few other languages there, Steve.
Yeah, I know, right? And then I could be the one who only knows the basics.
Yeah. Be on the receiving end.
Yeah. So is there any other styles that in your industry that are really common that you have to deal with?
Hey, my fellow impactful engineers. If there's one thing that you could do to help out this community, it's to keep listening to the podcast, but also if you found value in it, to share it with one person, give us a 5-star review, or even leave a text review. It'll only take a few seconds of your time. Find that person that you think could enjoy some of this or learn from it, and pass on the good word. Now back to the show. Well, kind of like in the flavor of this, like sending PowerPoint slides, one question per slide, it really does apply to our industry as well, and I'm sure everyone, but you do not want to overcrowd whatever it is you send with a bazillion things. I mean, the email, you got to keep it short and sweet, right? Listing things out in numerical order and bullets and stuff like that helps, but you can even get too far with that. And I'm guilty of trying to over-explain things in email too. So I'll just pick up the phone. Be like, hey, I'm going to send you an email after this, but my words are going to be so much better. Like, let's talk about this. I just did it today, like 3 times. It's like, gosh, I'm such a huge fan of just picking up the phone, hashing it all out, and then just following up with a really short email.
Yeah.
It's like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're going to send like a PowerPoint or a PDF, I just send PDFs. I have like a whole color scheme. It's very easy on the eyes. You know, if I want something to stand out, the rest of the document's going to be black and white, and then I'm going to have blue, red, and green, you know, and I'm going to have arrows. And it's just, you can manipulate the colors to draw attention to certain areas. I mean, there's a whole science behind this.
Oh yeah.
You know, to get the answer back that you want in the appropriate amount of time. Because here's one thing to really remember is that this one person that you're going to communicate with that you really want the answer from, they're getting the same thing you're sending to them from 100 different people. And their inbox is just this vortex of swirling images and emails and questions that stresses them the fuck out. Right. So they're going to get it. And if your email's hard to read and they don't understand it, they're going to skip you. Maybe like, that stresses me out.
Yep.
I'm going to go to this one that had one question. It's easy to answer. I'm going to do that first. So like, you got to play that game because you're going to get lost in their inbox. You know, if I had one piece of advice on that bullet you brought up, is that just realize the other person's getting bombarded. And this is why you must keep things concise and easy.
Yeah. And that actually ties into my last point. And I know we've covered this before, like I mentioned, but it really needs to be brought up in this topic communication. And it's ideally you want to follow the 24-hour rule, right? Don't let any communication that is soliciting your input go unanswered for more than 24 hours, period. If you don't have an answer, respond that you received the request and you'll get back to them in X amount of time with the answer that they're looking for. You know, don't ever ghost a colleague, a customer, and especially like a leader of your organization or another organization. Like nothing screams incompetence more than no responses.
And no one's ever going to say anything. Well, a lot of people are not going to say anything about it.
Yeah.
So you're just costing yourself rapport and trust, and no one's going to say a thing. And you're just going to think it's okay. Oh, they understand it takes a while. He doesn't want an update. Oh, I'm sure he doesn't. Or I'm sure she doesn't. Like, I'm sure they wouldn't like to know the status of all of their outstanding things so they could prioritize and put things into certain buckets and make sure that their life and their work is running well. I'm sure they wouldn't like that from you, right? But they're not going to take the time. They don't have the time to deal with your bullshit without answering. They don't have the time to tell you that it's not working for them. They're just going to move on. It's just going to cost you, and it's just going to be another tick mark against you. So yeah, I'd say a 24-hour rule is great.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite thing is when you follow up and you say, hey, I know I hadn't gotten to that yet. I'm going to have it to you tomorrow. And then they email you right back and they say, hey, I resolved it myself.
Yes, that's the best.
Perfect. Like, there goes one. That's a win.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks for getting back, but I got it because I shot out the question too fast anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've done that a million times. And usually the answer comes back like 5 minutes after I send a request. It's like, well, crap. Yeah. And also, I guess tying into that, you want to follow the 48-hour rule of follow-up, right? You don't want to be the engineer who's pestering someone every 12 hours, you know, for the answer. Hey, did you get my email? Hey, did you get my email? Hey, did you get my email? Over and over and over again. You know, give them that 24 hours to respond and then, you know, follow up within 48 hours. You know, like, hey, you know, I sent this out. It's a pretty high priority for me. I just wanted to talk to you about it and see if you had an answer. If you don't, that's okay. You know, and just let me know when you can get that answer, and follow up with a phone call. You know, you don't have to email them again. It's more effective to say, hey, you know, walk to their desk or call them and say, hey, I sent you this email. Did you have a chance to look at it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I was going to bring something up like, well, I guess I'll bring it up. If you find yourself thinking, how am I going to respond to all these things and keep it all straight and keep it, you know, I have hundreds of emails. People are asking all these things. I have so many outbound and so many inbound, and I can't just like follow up perfectly with all these things, right? Well, that's when your own priorities are going to come into play. You will let some things drop, but use your inability to act on these things that we're talking about effectively to clue you in as to, do I have too much work? Is there too much on my plate? Do I not have enough crew to do this right? You know, do we need a process in place that makes this faster? Should I have rules around who responds to what? Do I have to respond to everything?
Yeah.
You know, start thinking about these, start letting the rules that you've set for yourself to act on this follow-up, to have better communication, to quote unquote dumb it down for people, to be clear, to be concise. do those things and then allow the stress to be, I can't do these things for the way I want to do it, for how much work I have. And then start asking yourself about, okay, how do I fit my work into doing these great things? Not, I'm just not going to follow up. I'm not going to like be this person that is so intent into my work. I'm just going to like, it's getting in my way. I'm going to drop all this stuff that Steve and Jake said to do. And it doesn't matter anyway. And no one cares. And I'm just going to like do my work. You've given up at that point. And that's going to be a huge contributing like factor to going kind of nowhere and losing that trust with your coworkers and with clients. So don't give up on it. If you have stress and anxiety around it, it's because there's something broken within the system. Not that these rules are too much to handle. Not that these tactics shouldn't be used because, oh, I'm special and this is not going to work for me because they don't know my situation, how much work I have, and the position I'm in, right? They don't know. So if they knew, if I told Steve and Jake, I got on the phone with them and I was like, you guys, this all sounds great, but let me tell you about my situation. This is why I can't follow up 24 hours. Like, what are you talking about? I sent the email. It's their job to track it, to respond to me, and they should know all my deadlines and where it fits into my schedule. And if this project gets hung up or it blows up because of a missed communication, I sent the email. So it's not on me. Well, it will be, and you're going to get lumped in with everybody else.
Yep.
And no one's going to care that you did your part, quote unquote. Be the person that follows up. So don't let this stuff drop, right? Figure out how to get this done and then start talking about why it can't be done with the method or with the workload that you have. So just to be real, it matters.